whatever it is, wherever you are. Alright, so we've got our model going. I've got a mess of settings that are half implemented or unimplemented. I think I sort of got this working as far as showing our wiggle range. Although it doesn't really include the fact that we're actually limiting things by slowest speed as well. Well, that's the wiggle range of the upper range. Of the upper score range. In terms of how far it's allowed to vary, and then it gets floored out by slowest speed. Although, I still keep hoping that I'll come up with a better model for picking stuff. That still does what I want. So, where are we now? We've got that. There's too many marks on screen. I suppose I could rearrange things to actually have more multiple things across. Rather than overlaying everything. We got this kinda in place. And we're not really seeing any effect of it because we're going below. Well, the wiggle's actually affecting both of them. I think. It's kind of... Right, but then that one's probably moving up from its bottom and you're just constraining things. So the slowest speed needs to have some representation of what that setting actually represents. And actually right now it represents the starting and ending slowest speed. I've just got a hacked in constant for the upper end. When maybe that should actually be different. And the way I've got it set by default myself is not expressed by anything as simple as half. I actually do care about the slowest speed, but then I want to get a little bit faster. I'm wondering if I could actually use a different selection model. Well, I think my UI translations also need some work. So we got these boxes to go approximately right based on how we're using them. Next thing is slowest speed, which is unfortunately two settings. Could I actually calculate the other end of that somehow? I could do it. Let's see, we're currently going like 3.5. Oh, and as we reload, we're going to not want to be, well, I mean, that should pretty much take care of it. Yeah, we've got that hard code 3.5. For me, that's like a 4 times difference, but it seems like that's something that probably needs to be settable. To do that in a somewhat player independent way, I'd have to do a single factor model for just notes per second to get that proper scaling factor. Then you could do a range and properly implement it. Well, I do have some room in there to do a hard set. And at the moment, you know what? I ended up removing fastest speed, so that will be. Maybe I leave this in here as a code settable thing. Oh, I still have settings there that I'm not using. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. So these become. Actually, this becomes. So this. Dummy those in. Global. No. Scripts? Yeah. And I still have to see what I need to do about that as far as splitting it or... Ooh, yeah, if we make two things, then we have to have an actual setting there. But that is a global script. The only way I know how to reload those is to relaunch the program. Yep, lost that setting. And then pick, that's just gonna go away, I think. Just gonna be more of an example. Fastest speed controls. Well, this entire control thing goes away. Oh, it's that translation thing. So this goes away. This goes away, that goes away, that goes away. That goes away. I think Did I already remove that drawing code? No, because it would be upper NPS upper bound. Well, that's still a thing that's sort of in there. And maybe you'd want to look at it. And then English. Fastest speed text. And we told it not to evolve a model, so it didn't evolve a model. All right, pick. Right, because it's just a very simplified thing right now. Do I use that? Do I use that at all? Outside of that one spot? No. I did not find I was getting too much value out of that. At least how it was. So that's some stuff out of the way. So now I need to think about what we're doing here and how it's presented. So the thing that's settable on slowest speed is actually this line down here, which we might be able to do something like this. But I might want to also be able to set the upper bound if we're doing settings like that. Alright, so have I done this? Yeah, because it was just like settings line. And that's the text. Right, this is settings text. You know what? I keep doing that. I keep saying setting line and then getting that confused. Oop. I put this back to evolve model, which it will now do for as long as it wants. Okay, and we're still getting our text here. So that's the line. So now we want what we can currently set in slowest speed. Is the bottom value. Okay. That was overlay line. Okay, set line on, set line off, place line. Place line at stage? Oh, place line actually is directly doing the score for that stage. So either I need a function for that, or I need to be able to do the scaling and set the value. What I might want to do is to have just two of these. I can start by converting this one. So what we're doing is a score. And we're not even using stage. Likewise, we're not using it here. Maybe I used to line up the arrows by that stage? Yeah, okay, so not even using that. So this is going to be a score value. Why is this even called base? Well, maybe baseline of the line. Alright, so score line. Right, it was place line. Needs to be mid score is what we can set right now. So right now it's placed regardless, but only shown in certain circumstances. Do we have any... Yeah, we've got some current controls down here. If current controls... I think it's just default. Okay, so that works as well as it used to. Is it else if? Else if? Current controls equals slowest speed. Then we want this to be a notes per second line with slowest speed. Alright, so we got our scale. I did something... How did I do that? I put a thing, NPS scale, in our global that we could use to... do that. Oh, that has the width. I might have to redo my... No, because that did have the 600. So we just take that out of here. Okay, nothing crashed yet. But we're not making the line visible. Set line. So slowest speed is always going to have it on. Okay, and then I don't need all these little bitty arrows, although they do kind of represent, highlight what's being shown. How am I controlling those? Current, NF flow. Is there another difficulty arrows on wiggle arrows, stages arrows, slowest arrows? So it probably wouldn't hurt too much to leave the code there, at least for now. And that's this entire thing. So in wiggle, do I really want the individual arrows? I mean, ultimately that is an amount, although I'm not sure I can represent that amount well. Oh, I don't even okay. Okay. I might need to rename these, because see the arrows that I don't want. Did I miss something else? Like forgetting to save? What the heck? Which arrow has the mark attached to it? Oh, because I'm using arrow visibility to decide whether to do some stuff. Yeah. So really we want to do this. Okay, so that's our slowest point. As is, we actually need to have a setting for fastest as well. Or for the upper end of slowest. To be just UI for what we have. Haven't actually removed those arrows. And I just kind of left that hanging around for now. So that would make that starting slowest speed, though. And then slowest speed is not really slowest speed, it's like mid-slowest speed. Maybe if I had the upper end settable in the starting and ending as a factor of that? So that actually changes how we use this. So then lowest bound becomes slowest speed, which we need to adjust. And like slowest speed divided by 4, and then everything else sort of sort of evolves around that. Nope, we set this back. So that gives us a very, very wide range. So we did have this up around 3.5. So that gives us the same results with one setting, and it might not be to somebody else's taste. Which is a thing that concerns me. But we've got harder and easier here. We've got our mode selections. We've got wiggle working. We haven't really touched stages. We have something here that makes this somewhat settable. So it's at least functional. That, however, is going to change this to have a different default value. And actually, that's going to have a different default value. Yeah, that's about there. I think my varying thing there changed a little bit. It's status. Did I not save? Oh, and as this is currently defined, I could remove the low setting entirely. Okay. So if I tried to redo this, if I tried to redo it as some sort of distribution, and then sort of arranged it in a similar pattern, this isn't too bad as far as hitting the same level all the time. I guess we got mid 70. Oh, that was one of the things I was looking at. No, I did tweak that so it's not always hitting like a really fine point here. Although something is a little off because this is being shown outside of my range. So what would a distribution look like? Well, we'd have to be picking something. So that would be back to picking exact scores. Or exact notes per second. Which could kind of get us into a rut. Actually, do I have anything else on the to-do list? Oh, I've got a simple thing here. So, so if we have this on, and we hack this, well, actually, I think I have this for a specific reason. So we should be able to go in here. Yeah, and then now we're on round 1, and it shouldn't be showing that. What do we call that? Training? Training data. Yeah, training. Yeah, selection snapshot. Wait. If there is, though, there's always no selection when we first get back there. We have a thing that automatically moves us. Yeah, to the perform pick. Or if stage greater than 0. If selection snapshot equals 0 and then training help text. Stage 1. What? Oh, maybe this has to do with the actual default value of training help text? Yeah, these are all visible false. But then nothing is visible. Current controls equals default. Set view. Switch view. Set view flow. After we perform pick. Well, I probably want that before I do any code. And I probably want to do it after we do this stuff. Wait, set control doesn't exist yet. Do we have any place else that we do some setup stuff like this? local function input. And then we go into our actor frame. Now this ends up depending on some functions. Yeah. Actually, this might end up doing some actor tree stuff that doesn't exist. Yeah. Oh, man. Update. If entering song, if frame equals 2, song text, set text. Okay, now this is stage 1. Stage... Okay, that says warm up, and then one does not. And then I had a note about this. Yeah, leaving it off should be fine. Only show training text. Oh, we got rid of that one. 2 parts of fastest. Well, I don't have that concern anymore. I sort of resolved that. By just having one setting and making the other half. I've got a very mixed selection. And then we're back to... like, this model that sort of works is really hard to explain and understand. It's not a UI library per se, except in as much as Stepmania sort of is a UI library for itself. And then I'm doing a bunch of badly designed controls on top of that. So it has they call them actors. That's in there. And then the way there's this weird thing where like a file returns, well, no, that was too many of them, but returns a tree essentially of other actors. Where you've got text in boxes and things, and it actually makes it a little bit hard to work with at times. Because you essentially have to like create these objects and then come back later to set their positions and things if you want to do anything dynamic. Alright. Notes. Yeah, then there's this. So this never goes below our lowest score. Oh, that's one thing I was thinking of. Probably don't want to show this line all the time. But that might mean pushing some stuff down to song list item to toggle difficulty arrows. Or we're just not calling those? Yeah, we're just not calling those. And I don't really want the arrows. And this is, well, I guess I could still sort of do some stuff with the song list item where I just passed in some sort of context instead of all of these parameters. We just put together some sort of context object that says, well, I'd have to potentially look at all kinds of things. It's like, this stuff is all context. Like, is it selected? Which number is it? What's the factor? So, current. Yeah, the flow is itself a context object. Are you current? The selected item, which is like all the stuff about the song that we selected from the song picker. Set selections, selection. So we actually do only call that one place. And then we've got a bunch of things that are calling into the item to toggle various things off. Which, in sort of I feel like this is a little bit more of a, well, I guess it resolves down to show this thing. And in some cases we have a setting value for it. Alright, well, I would like to take a break. I will be back in a few minutes. Well, okay. No. Did you just drop? You just take that kid away somewhere?
See, he would have done that against our Strider. Which also makes him a 6/6 and then a 7/7.
Yeah, but what? Is he gonna swing into us?
No.
Well, he might have something that just gives it first strike, or
He would have to have a bolt. 2 cards left in hand. Go ahead. Bring it on. Bring it on!
right,
he's smart.
Cast it.
Okay. But there is another act. Huh? Well, that was a successful run, I guess.
Welcome back, everybody. I gotta remember to unmute myself. Yep.
Huh. I wasn't there a second ago. Nothing. Where's it that one?
All right, well, welcome back. So we've got a poll. Well, would it be worth doing some kind? Well, if I did, well, we'd still have tests like this that would resolve down to setting some flag. So it's not going to be structured very differently. So we want to say that if current controls... Well, this wants to be in the situation that we bump it. So actually that's not that simple. Where was that? That was bump, flow, song list overlay, set line on. Where do I do set selections from? When we change controls, and when we perform pick. Right. Which is one of the things we do when we're tweaking this. But the only state we have for this is that this thing is visible. The line is used for more than one thing. So it essentially need a state variable just to say we're showing that stuff. And then set it before doing that. So if we've tweaked it, that line will show up. So we got that. We've got all the lines. We've got current view. Now, these are all objects that we need to reference at times. I guess this is kind of a view thing. So this would be like... changing, updating, naming is hard. Editing. And then whenever we... Is it change controls? Switch controls? When we cycle through, I don't think set controls, because I might have to call those extra. We would turn this bit off whenever we cycle controls. And then when we bump flow, we would set that on. So that when we perform pick, when we set selections, come down to here, come down to this, and we don't really have this right now. That would be, I think, roughly equivalent to that. We can use this as a proof of concept. I need to turn that down. Right. So what I was actually looking for here is not that. Is this not usable directly? And did I set this correctly? False, false. Oop. How about we set it to true? Ooh. Okay. Oh, you expected arguments. Well, this isn't actually what I want. I was just hoping I could use it as a quick and dirty method here. I'm currently setting it all the time, which I would not necessarily have to do. This is actually like score bound. Yeah, I think it's score bound. And we're currently setting that all the time because it was visible all the time. And I never reset that. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, right. I was doing these with spaces because they're just tags. I never did set that off. Okay. Okay, when we cycle around, we don't have all that stuff in the way. We have too many settings, but when we tweak this, we actually have where that's resolving to. Slowest isn't necessarily the right description for this anymore. It's more like minimums, not minimum. It's not minimum, it's not maximum. Maybe it is the minimum. Minimum speed. Yeah? And it just has some very weird effects. And I would also need to do something to describe what the heck all these marks mean. Which makes me think overlaying them is probably not the best solution. Alright, so we never got around to removing that. Bunch of cleanup there. Right, that was a little bit of cleanup as far as removing some noise. Changing setting. So we've got throwing in the occasional slow song, but not too much. Maybe that it would be a distribution thing. Alright, curve graph. Actually, how... But how do you pick by a distribution? Alright, well, what I've been using are distribution functions, which I don't think... Well, no, because it's a function of 0 to 1. No. It's meant to describe the amount of hits you get at each level. I would need an actual description of the probability function to select a value in the range. So I know some simple centered things. So update what we're working on. We want... Probably need to do some research. Also... So... Yeah, so that's linear. If you pick 2, you start getting other shapes. And we're particularly interested in the 0, 1 space here. That's just an easy thing to work with. And yes, this is powers, but so if I was going to say pick scores or, well, I'd still have to set the notes per second range. Or scores within the range. Yeah, so I keep thinking in terms of the distribution functions, which say how often we get things, which is kind of what you'd want to be maybe viewing. Convert to table. Restrictions. Okay. So what I really want is, like, do we have functions? Supported functions. Not many, apparently. We have trig. Well, we do have mean, median, min. Population standard deviation, but what's x1? Sum of elements in a list. So, is there something in here about lists? Table columns are available as lists in the rest of the system. So if you convert it to a table, you could then run functions over that. I don't really know that any of these are going to be like a probability density function, though. So now some of the things that I was playing around with, I know that it was like the density functions actually sort of gave me the effect what we wanted. Probability and statistics. Yeah, that's the 2d6. The normal distribution. Probability distribution function, or density maybe. There's cumulative. Discrete probability function. Oh, wait, those are discrete values. Continuous probability distribution. Random number generation in a given way. common probability when there's a list. Common, normal, log normal, Pareto, doesn't look a very continuous graph. Yes, there's the kind of probability distribution functions I was sort of thinking about. Although the continuous, well, if you get sort of these mid ones, maybe. But then how do you describe the actual method? Logarithm is normally distributed. Random variable x is log normally as a normal distribution. So does that mean, well, we need two independent variables. Is the problem. But if we do like log x times log x, that's kind of, well, I mean, log x, well, it's inverted for one. And that's just going to be like 2x. It would be more interesting. Well, that's just. Yeah, it's not quite over the range we want. You know, we've got those. Why is that? Right, the log of that is a normal distribution. So if we have something which has that property, then that is log normally distributed random variable x. Mean standard deviation. We can write x as probability density function. I don't know if we really have a way to generate them. Applications. Other names is the statistical realization of the multiplicative product of many independent random variables. Well, yeah, if we keep multiplying random things in a 0 to 1 range, they'll tend towards lower values. That's not going to be an easy thing to control the offset of, though. yeah, it doesn't have a peak. Yeah, that's discrete. Yes, no events, not categorical, occur independently of a given rate. Absolute vector, values of vectors with normally distributed components. Chi-squared distribution. Yeah, this sort of goes off to infinity. Not sure I like that. That is a centered distribution. Well, it does say normally in intermittent quantities. Bayesian interference. Yeah, it looks sort of like one of the things I have. It has a lot of weird corners in it. Uh, hmm. Two per continuous probability distributions. Hmm. Maybe I should just try to come up with something. List of probability distributions. I don't suppose that has... With finite support. Poisson sort of leans to one side. Beta, Kursame. Yeah, there's just got a selection of graphs. That's very spiky. Yeah, I don't have an easy way to describe something that leans to one side or the other. There was the thing that was multiplication of independent variables, which you don't have a way to do independent variables easily, I don't think. So if I pick a couple random values, multiply them together, I get something that is skewed towards one end or the other. So we've got... and the randomness could make things awkward. Hmm. Well, eval flow does it to a certain resolution. How would you make that consistent? That might be a problem. I mean, to be trying to pick a collection of stuff, which would move me back into the stored settings versus calculated settings, after going to all the trouble to turn them into functions. Alright, well, make sure this is working. Okay, so that's some basic shape display. It's still not really positioned all that perfectly, but we have a means for displaying something. To do it as a distribution, we'll need something like this to see how things overall turned out. Well, if you did get it to be, well, you'd have to scale it to a 0, 1. But if you took a function like this and picked random points on it, you'd get that kind of a distribution without necessarily hitting all the points every time. Do I still have some of my other functions around? There's exponential. Yeah, we had arc factor. So I copied this, not really done anything with it yet. Do you need more arguments? No, okay. Right, because that's just the 0, 1. With a bit of a fudge factor thrown in. And that spent too much time. Yeah, that spent too much time down here, which is why I didn't like that curve per se. As a distribution, that would probably still spend too much time down there. But it actually does hit the bottoms. If we took something like this and did full range, I could just handcraft a curve and then pick random points on it as scores and push out the extremes to make them rare. I would. I would still need a way to make that consistent. What is it? Well, a wiggle range is probably, yeah. I don't know if I have anything that's just the pure variation. That's with the variation. But I get that by doing a sine wave, and a sine wave can be described by two parameters. Sort of a start position, and I think there's an offset, or it was a scale of the entire thing. Yeah, sine value and then a tweak up or down the curve. It gives me some somewhat predictable variation. But that can be described in two parameters. If I want to do a distribution type of thing, where we rely on some randomness to occasionally get some extremes, then I have to have some way to contain that randomness. Yeah, so these get picked once at startup. Do I ever reseed? Math.random seed, game state get seed. Right, the random ordering of the songs. Oh, so the game state has a seed. So if we reseed before doing that, it would always be the same seed for the songs. There should be any, but that's also being affected by play count. So for a given method of picking, that gives us a way to get a consistent set of random picks. What we have right now is a system where we presume that we can evaluate a curve at any point at any time. Which is not so good for picking distributed things. Maybe I could do like seed by the seed value and the current position. So if we pick the same position multiple times for a given thing, and then, yeah, we reset by something else. Which would be a lot of yanking around the random generator. So I'm wondering if I can get a function that gets the ratio of things I want. Well, actually, if it's just ratio, then we might be able to do simple functions. Although we want more like maybe we just do 1 over x. Oop. No. I was thinking, like, if I'm doing this kind of shape, ooh, I probably really want to, like, invert that. Well, I guess we've kind of got that shape, which is... Mm, what do I need to flip here? Because I have to decide what my axes are. If we put in a value and we want a distribution of... So if we flipped that, if we figured out how to flip this around, or actually I guess it's just kind of this. So that is going to be... is that x plus 1 or x minus 1? Low probability of the easy stuff. Higher probability, but there's a pretty decent probability of getting the exactly the hardest setting. Alright, so I don't think this will graph well. So up here, we've got U and there. It's probably going to be ungodly expensive. So this actually... will just be a direct function. It has no parameters as it stands. I might actually just want to see how practical this is to get consistent results. So we've got that. We mix it with that, and then distribution factor, which should be like complete noise. Yeah, so that's complete noise. So if we then take that and do something like this. Oh, and this is where I could actually do... Here we could actually can actually get multiple factors. That's going to take it down. This is where you'd want to do the inversion. Which is... that minus... Actually, does... Yeah, actually, I guess that 1 minus would kind of describe that. And then we could so I don't know that... Since they are random, we might be better off... is it POW? No, it's just a symbol. We were doing 4 before. Curve graph. So if we did just pick 10, or 16 or whatever. Yeah, we get like maybe 1 really low. A bunch at max. And nothing much in between. So when we're using it directly, the 4th seemed about right. That's definitely spending some time up at top. And then we were thinking, could we sort that by the kind of curve we were using elsewhere? Was it you? No, it was something like that. Well, appropriately flipped and scaled. So how would you sort that? You'd essentially have to sort both, keep track of their indexes. I guess you'd only need the picked values. Oh, the other thing I was thinking of is could I have a yeah, I went 0 to 1. Could I have a distribution around my center so that you sometimes got the rare one up? But we still have to figure out a maximum point for that to work. Could we scale the two sides differently? I think I left out normal distribution because it was too mirrored. Oop. So it does have a little bit of a long tail. It just disappears rapidly. But that does go to both sides. Standard normal distribution. There's its probability density function. Which should be called the standard. E to the negative x squared over pi. Over square root of pi. And that's defining something different. Negative pi x squared. Uh... Ah. That's a... Oh, wait. No, it's supposed to be E. That is definitely a weird little curve, though. So you'd almost have to scale your positive and negative arms differently to get the effect I want, I think. Because that defines it more as where you want to spend most of your time. And I haven't found an easy definition of a asymmetric distribution. Shape parameter. Yeah, there's a probability density function. But I don't know if they ever actually define the function itself. Mean, median, mode, variance, skewness, entropy, MGF, CF. Exponential should be, yeah, one-sided. But the function itself is just exponential family. We need to find the family to get the definitions? Well, we run across a bunch of these. So to use this as a sorting parameter, I'd have to evaluate both. Well, yeah, that makes it depend on... That makes it depend on how many you're going to do. Like, I kind of want to take a distribution, so there's some randomness, and then just take the low values and put them near the ends. And kind of generally according to that curve, as near as possible. But that sort of requires global knowledge of everything you picked. Rather than what I've ended up with currently, which is functions that can define things. That would require me to move back to a stored array storage format. So you could pick definite random things. And anything random does depend on an exact value to get the offset. So it kind of can't be evaluated anywhere. So we do songs by assigning a known distribution up front. or we have a known number of songs. We assign them weights and sort by that. A random setup would necessarily have to that was the other thing, is we wanted curves that would behave well as we change number of stages, but maybe that's being fancy. It's like I want some of the effects of a random distribution in that we occasionally get these random things that are high or low. Which would mean let's see, so normal, right, which we're able to categorize or characterize. Wait a minute. That's just some number. Two to the x squared. Yeah, so that's the family of normal distributions. And that's some particular shaping of it. It's like I almost want to be able to define well, yeah, I mean, if I kind of defined like 1 as my low range, I'd still have to have a set point for notes per second, wouldn't I? About where we want our center to be. Where would we put... I'd have to do a sign test and scale it differently depending on that to use that directly. That sort of expresses how often I want to see things in different speeds. Or if I just change this shape, that would kind of do that effect. Well, let's be easier to pick a point and set it, although this could... Well, as a limit, it could work, maybe. But it does technically go infinite. Well, that's based on the input. Yeah, input range is infinite, not output range. How do we get the... Well, I mean, I'm talking about something that feels like a random event, but is defined in a reproducible way. Can we... Well, we've kind of got it here. I'm guessing that one of these is going to be... Oh. Actually, right, because that's that curve. Oh. Maybe the tightness is actually this? Well, you need a lot of zeros to make a very tight curve. Surely there's a better way to do that. That... No, that gets infinitely large. That's not quite what we want. Hmm. Get a very spiky function and then give it a random offset? That could be a single setting. Well, I might as well be picking an index at that point. And saying spike this one. But I might want to define it by a center. Well, I think I used to do that, then you had to explain how range worked, and it was kind of changing your limit for what you wanted actually meant bumping the center and bumping the wiggle. So I'd want some way to change the high and the low, I guess. So you could have a center and then like high and low values. Which could be handled by testing a normal distribution. Well, it'd be random distribution, which gets us back to the picking it. It becomes more of pick values, random values into an array, than define a function which describes the process. Which is a flip. Yeah, so I still don't have a curve that's exactly what I want. And the one that I've got is a little bit obtuse. Sometimes I want to go back to my old model, but it's like it kept giving me songs that were too slow. And you had to sort of fiddle with parameters to get the range you wanted. Alright, so we got some code for this. This is a thing. I'm not entirely sure how to use it right now. It actually didn't seem to be terrible to calculate, although the constant reseeding is probably not great for us. I don't think you can capture the current seed. So I think this is roughly 5.1. And that would be the technically under the mathematical library. Um, oh, I called it an integer number. Use that as the seed, and there's no way to get... Well, wait a minute. Yeah, there's no way to get the previous seed that is documented. So I can't really leave the system undisturbed. Okay, so we're back to there. We've got this random factor thing. That I'm not entirely sure how to use. Because right now, well, we've got game seed and we've got X, so it could be consistent for a given seed. If you're always evaluating it at the same factors. I have to figure out how I want to use that, though. Actually, before I inverted it, that was near 0, so if I used it as a tweak, you'd have to if I wanted to go both ways, you have to pre-decide which way you're going. I could take that as a tweak within my very fixed and, take that as a tweak within my sine wave. Use that to get the sine, and well, it's essentially an extra scaling factor, so then we might want to reduce the range of this. Oh, but then that might mean taking off some limits. So we'd have to be looking at how it all worked. Alright, well, we got some background training, so maybe we can use that. But it's getting late enough that I want to switch over to playing this game for a bit of my weekly exercise. And I kind of need to just remember to think about this. It's going to just kind of off time. I've heard described as like hammock time. which isn't necessarily the most entertaining thing to stream, probably. That's kind of what I'm stuck on. I've got something serviceable for the UI stuff. You can at least change the factors that are exposed, even if they're maybe too simplified. Oh, and I don't have my low score anymore, so if that goes away, then I don't know if anybody else. Well, I've changed that a lot since I last published something, so I don't know if anybody even used the old one. Anywho, programming is over. If you're here for programming, thanks for hanging out. I will be back to actually play Stepmania. If I don't bump anything, possibly with these selections. Although I was playing with my settings. No, you. Yeah, that's about where we were. I need to fix that. That's about where we were. Okay. Possibly with these selections. I am going to need a little bit to reset the stream, but first of all, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the hosts. Yeah, pretty much the usual suspects. I am usually coding in the mornings and then switching over to actually play Stepmania at some time. Do need to drop the stream to switch over to higher frame rate settings, and I will be back in then a few minutes to actually set up. Yeah, to set up the pad and stuff. So if you want to hang out, I'll be back. If you don't, goodbye, and thanks for hanging out.